The Play Action podcast is fueled by Picasso's Pizza, where every night is pizza night.
The 7-2 Buffalo Bills travel to Indianapolis this week to face the 4-5 Colts in what amounts to a take care of business game from the Bills' perspective. Katherine, let's start off here looking at Bills' offense coming off a good game against Miami against the Colts' defense. What do you think?
Yeah, Colts have lost the last two. Defensively, you look at kind of where they're at. What stands out to me, 29th in yards allowed. Notable, obviously. I think just kind of you look at how they have established this defense or kind of what they're trying to do. They've got some guys out there, but it's just not coming together the way they want it to. Yeah,
and even in advanced metrics, they're not. That doesn't do them any favors either. They're 25th in DVOA or 28th against the pass, 20th overall. They have a stout middle two. I will give them that. Grover Stewart at defensive tackle and DeForest Buckner, their other defensive tackle. They are two really big, physical, stout players. So it's a good thing the Bills are playing well in the interior of their offensive line. And they have some talent on the outside. They drafted Laiatu Latu from UCLA. Really loved him coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
He's doing okay. He's got 2 sacks, 20 pressures, playing 50% of the snaps. But really, their secondary is unexceptional. Their linebacking core is unexceptional. They have a really good slot cornerback in Kenny Moore. Who's going to be a really good matchup for Khalil Shakir. But other than that, a lot of, this is a game where the Bills' offense, if it's reasonably healthy, which is an if at this moment, should be able to roll in this game.
Let's talk about what Gus Bradley is doing with the defense for a second. The Colts defensive coordinator, just what he's doing with their cover three. It's one of only 2 teams over 50%, while the rest of the league's kind of moving away from that scheme. What do you make of what he's doing and just how it's been effective or not?
Yeah, he does what he does. Again, if you have any scheme is sound if you have the people to execute it. So Gus Bradley likes big, long corners. Think of the those long-armed Seattle, San Francisco corners who can be physical at the line. This is a zone-based defense. So I like the Bills. I like Shakir and Kincaid to work the middle of the field in this game, even though Kenny Moore is good. I think a big part of it is I think the Bills see, obviously everybody mixes it up, but Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes see a little more cover 2 shells than cover 3.
Yes.
Nobody plays Patrick Mahomes cover 3 much anymore. So, but, maybe the Colts will lean into this, cover 3 if they're not that worried about getting beat downfield by the Bills if the Bills' receivers are banged up. So that brings up to another element of this game. Keon-Coleman dealing with some sort of hand, wrist injury. It's early. We'll see what they say this week. I'd be surprised if he plays, but, if amari-cooper plays, then all is well. If we're thinking that amari-cooper is going to be day-to-day, but that would be if amari-cooper takes a turn for the worse and they don't have Cooper or Coleman. That's a problem. Now all of a sudden, wow, the run game better be good. But if they have Cooper, I think this is a good matchup for the Bills.
Right, and Sean McDermott had said Cooper was about 50-50 as to whether or not he was going to play last week, dealing with a wrist injury of his own. They've just been very unlucky with wrist injuries as of late on offense and on defense. These are my words, not the team's. I say he's trending better than Coleman at this point for the week, just based off when the injuries occurred.
Yeah, and so that would be important, really important this week. So, we saw when they were really depleted at receiver in Baltimore, totally different animal, Baltimore, different defense, but they have Shakir. I like Kincaid. The Bills are going to try to run. I don't think the presence of Stewart and Buckner, no matter how good they are, I don't think that's going to discourage the Bills. The Bills are going to try and run the ball. The Bills have confidence in their O-line. I wrote a story for the Buffalo News in today's paper and online today about the Bills' use of 6 offensive linemen. They're doing it 15.3% of the time, number 1 in the league, and it's working really well. So that's something to check at buffalonews.com.
Now, when it comes to the Colts offense and what they're doing, it starts at quarterback, and that has been a huge storyline this season. They went from Anthony Richardson, benched him, and now they have Joe Flacco, who's in his 17th year in the NFL. Mark, what do you make of just kind of this chaos?
It's really a fascinating situation, and one that Bills fans can sit back and smile and say, "Thank God we're done with those kind of quarterback of the future worries." So Anthony Richardson so they draft Anthony Richardson, only 13 starts in college, 390 pass attempts. That's almost nothing. The guy needs reps. When you draft Anthony Richardson, he needs 2 years of NFL reps.
100%.
Last year, he only plays 5 games. Gets the shoulder injury. So, why pull the plug on him when you knew the day you made this, he needed 2 years of reps. You just can't be a functionally effective NFL quarterback, with 300 reps coming into the league, and then he only had another 200 or 300 last year. It's just not enough. So why did they pull the plug? Well, we don't need to get too far into the weeds. It's partly, we think, a locker room thing. So they go to Flacco. They play the Minnesota. Minnesota, for the record, is a terrible defense to throw Anthony Richardson to. With the blitzing that Brian Flores does. So that's understandable. So they bring Joe Flacco in, and Joe Flacco produces no touchdowns. Flacco's 39. He can throw the ball deep. What does it mean for the Bills? We're presuming Flacco is going to be the starter because they said it wasn't a 1-week thing. We'll see. After the game, they said, well, Flacco's the starter for now. So the Bills could get a little of both for all we know. The point is, for the Bills defense, the Colts don't have elite quarterbacking no matter who plays. Number 2, they do have a really good wide receiver core. They have a good offensive line, although it's banged up a little. So that's the 2 strengths. Pretty good offensive line, pretty good receiver core, chaos at quarterback.
Yeah, and I think even just, you make a switch, it indicates some chaos at quarterback. But I think the way they handled it, too, it sounded like not totally telling Anthony Richardson what was going on, very unclear, going back and forth on stuff. It just doesn't seem good long-term for the psyche of these guys.
I totally agree with that. I don't know why you wouldn't fully explain it to Anthony Richardson. Yeah, I don't know. That's bizarre. Flacco has an elite, still has had an elite arm, still has a very good arm. He is strictly, obviously, a pocket passer. So the Bills' pass rush needs to and should have a good day against him. The Colts just lost their starting center, who's a higher level starting center, Ryan Kelly. He's out. He went on IR yesterday. Tanner Bartolini, a rookie 4th-round pick from Wisconsin, starts there. That's a plus for the Bills. They were without their very good left tackle, Bernard Raymond, last week due to a concussion. That's something for Bills fans to watch. Does he come back this week? Presumption is he probably will, but that's something to monitor. And they have an elite guard in Quinton Nelson. They have a pretty good right tackle in Braden Smith, although he's been victimized some this year. So again, Bills need, if it's Flacco, which we're presuming it is, Bills pass rush needs to get to him.
One thing that stands out is they have the second most RPOs right behind Philadelphia. Last year, they were number one at 18%. So they'll use same formations, but then just run a lot of different plays out of it. And I think that is one way they're taking advantage of the guys they have on the offense.
I think and the Bills are very used to defending RPOs. Miami has been one of the higher RPO teams. So, you're watching a conflict defender, usually, either the linebacker or Taron Johnson, and if they overcommit to the run, you're throwing it. So, but the Bills, are extremely familiar with that. So we'll see how that goes. I like the Colts receiving corps. Josh Downs is a playmaker. He is a Khalil Shakir type player. I liked him coming out of the draft 2 years ago from North Carolina. They have a big guy, a big ex-receiver in Michael Pittman, who's been a little slowed with back injuries. Then they have Alec Pierce, who's a speedy downfield guy. So I think the Bills are going to be focused on protecting downfield against Joe Flacco, who can sling it downfield. The dust has settled on the NFL's trade deadline. The big news, obviously, is Bills get a big addition and a much-needed addition to their wide receiver core a couple weeks ago in Amari-Cooper. But now, not trade-related, but now the Bills are making some additions to the defense in the wake of these latest injuries. Quinton Jefferson has been confirmed. Old friend Quinton Jefferson, defensive tackle, steps in, and he looks like a good fit to replace Dawuane Smoot.
Yeah, they're bringing in Dawuane Smoot's headed to IR, first of all, with a wrist injury, so he'll be out for a while. Again, just an unfortunate slate of wrist injuries for this team.
My carpal tunnel is flaring up just listening to this. I don't know. So Smoot out, which is a pretty big loss. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think so. He's been so critical, especially on third down, kind of calling the plays there for the defensive line. And Bobby Babich was saying they're going to figure out maybe week to week who will take on that role of kind of helping out so much on third down. But yeah, bringing in Quinton Jefferson, Jordan Phillips, I think
it helps. And also Dwayne Carter being out, that helps that depth. But I think Quinton Jefferson played for the Bills in 2020, had 3 sacks, played 50% of the snaps as a backup defensive tackle. His MO is he's a penetrating 3 technique at Oliver backup who can flex a little to the 1 technique and pass rushing guy. He's a sub pass rushing guy, and he can also flex to defensive end like Smoot could. So in that sense, it's a good fit. He knows the Bills scheme from being here in 2020. I think he didn't quite meet expectations in 2020, but he had gone on to have pretty good production. He's 31. He had 4.5 sacks for Vegas in 2021. He had 5.5 sacks as a backup to Seattle in 2022. He had 6 sacks as a starter, 14 games for the Jets last year, played 41% of the snaps, only 29% of the snaps in 5 games for Cleveland. So it helps the Bills' depth there. The rest of the trade deadline, the big items were, I think, for the Bills' perspective, Kansas City and Baltimore. The Bills make a big addition, Cooper. Kansas City and Baltimore also make big additions.
Right. Where do you think the Bills kind of stand in relation to those teams now, since that's going to be the measuring stick sometimes?
Yeah, I think the Bills didn't the Cooper addition was huge because you look at the receiving core without Cooper, and obviously it looks way better with Cooper. I think the Bills didn't gain ground, but they didn't lose ground.
Okay.
So the Chiefs get DeAndre Hopkins, but they lost Rashee Rice. So they're 2 different players, but still it's a net equal for the Chiefs at receiver. They add Josh Uche from New England, a situational, undersized speed edge rusher. Their edge rushing already was good. So, it helps, but it adds to something that was already a strength for them. Good moves by Kansas City, but Bills stay even to what they already were, which is, in my view, a rung behind Kansas City. Baltimore gets Deontay Johnson, wide receiver, who helps Baltimore's passing game. Maybe not a huge addition, but Baltimore, obviously, with the most devastating rushing attack in the NFL, maybe in the NFL in recent memory.
Yeah.
And now, one problem for the Colts, the Ravens in the past was you could blitz Lamar Jackson some and cause problems. Now they got yet another answer to the blitz. That helps Baltimore. Baltimore, in my view, ahead of the Bills still as top 2 in the AFC.
Yeah, you mentioned those two teams after the Bills face the Colts this week. Then Kansas City comes here to Orchard Park, so they'll, get to see up close how these additions actually play out head to head.
Can't wait for that. We might need a double podcast next week to talk about the Kansas City matchup.
We do have a ton to talk about, but Colts up first. We'll be writing everything about it on buffalonews.com, and then make sure you're subscribing where you get your podcasts in case of a double pod next week. But either way, we will be back. So keep listening and reading.
Treat your team to the most flavorful pizza on game day at Picasso's Pizza. 4 great Western New York locations: Williamsville, West Seneca, Lancaster, and Blaisdell. Picasso's. We are Buffalo's Pizza since 1980. Order online today at picassospizza.net.